Hey everyone, this is Sellers.
And this is Stormy.
And this is Unforgotten,
where each episode will highlight unsolved missing, murdered, and suspicious death cases in Alabama in order to raise awareness and hopefully obtain some answers for victims and their families.
Please remember that any individual referenced in the podcast should be considered innocent until found guilty in a court of law, and any opinions or views expressed in the podcast are solely those of participants. Listener discretion is advised, as some of the content discussed in the podcast may contain violence or graphic descriptions and may not be suitable for all audiences.
And now for our second Unforgotten talk of Season 2.
Hey guys, and welcome back. This week, we're bringing you our second Unforgotten talk of Season 2.
Yeah, that's right. We are fortunate also to have Dana come join us again. Hey, Dana.
Hey, Carrie. Hey, Mary. I'm super glad to be back with you guys.
Hi, I'm glad you're here.
I know.
We have so much to talk about.
I know.
Yeah.
So some great things have been happening in the world of IGG and cold cases this week, and I'm anxious to talk about all of that and discuss Stephen Pearson's case with you guys. Now, this one really has me kind of confused and super interested and hoping that you can answer some questions for me.
And it's one of those, like, every time I go back and listen to the episodes that we've done, I hear something else and I'm like, gosh, dang it. I meant for us to talk about that. Or like I hear it differently and I'm like, I text Mary and I'm like, here's something to add to the list.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think about it this way, but now I'm listening back and, you know, here's something in the timeline this like couldn't have lined up. And so it's one of those things where there's so much going on that it was hard to track.
Yeah.
And also do it in a way that kept it clear throughout the podcast episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you start trying to mix in like his financial movements and all the witness sightings and then also go into what was going on with the Bowmans but you mix it together, it gets really convoluted.
It does. Yeah. And there's so much detail.
I think you guys did a great job. Yeah. I mean, like you said, Mary, so much detail. I think you did a great job. It's just, I feel like you guys understand this a heck of a lot better than I do. And so it'll be interesting for us to be able to kind of recap it.
Yeah. And it's always great to have somebody else come in and say, okay, well, what about this?
Yeah.
Or, explain this better, or did you guys think about this? Or has anybody thought about this? Because that always helps too. Because I think we talked about it in the last one that we go back and listen to it and we still hear stuff. When you study a case for so long and you know all the facts, sometimes you're tuned into those facts. It's almost like just muscle memory type thing. You know that. And so like, the main event.
You just kind of regurgitate rather than really.
Yeah. So you miss like, wait a second, there was this little small piece over here that when you snap that in, that kind of changes things a little bit. And so it's nice to have you come on and help us sort through all that.
100%. Yeah.
So talking about the great things that were coming out this week, we are so excited to see some of the work coming out from advocates and genealogists in the private sector, helping give names back to 2 Jane Does who've gone so long unidentified and their families wondering where they are and what happened to them. It'll give you chill bumps. It's amazing to see those names go back.
It really is. Like, neither case is from Alabama, so I'll qualify that here, but there is a connection with both Dana and I in the 2 cases. So we thought it was important to talk about, but also important to talk about because, those are the things that we hope for every day here in Alabama as well. And, all over the country. But these cases have been really kind of big cases in the back, kind of floating in the background that we've been hoping that the identification would finally come to fruition. So, and primarily, Dana, we are just super proud of the work that you did. And I'm talking about the Cobb County Jane Doe, who was just identified.
You want to talk about that one? Because you did so much work on it.
Yeah, I'm going to let you say the name. I'm not
Sure.
going to say it.
Okay. Oh, that's so nice of you, Mary. So yes, I am very happy to be able to say her name. Cobb County Jane Doe was discovered in 1984, and she has been identified as Veronica Jane Miller.
Ooh.
She was a bust for a very long time, she didn't have a name for 41 years. And just yesterday, it was announced publicly, or Saturday, I think. So on September 7th, she was identified publicly, and her photo was released publicly today. So
I saw that.
Yes.
And actually really not too far off from the bust.
Exactly.
All that time she has been unidentified. The victim was identified as Veronica Jane Miller. It has gone from an unidentified person to now an unsolved homicide. There are any witnesses, again, in 40 years, where are they now? As well as the suspect or suspects, again, 40 years later, where are they now?
The interesting thing is, I have known her name for a long time, her potential name, let's say, for a long time, and I have seen her face, but I wasn't 100% sure it was her. So once I knew her name, I started digging in and doing research, and I was able to come across some photos. But it's just been a whirlwind of a few days. It's very different when you have an inkling. I talked to the family many months ago. They reached out to me and said, the girl in your podcast, we think she's our cousin. And then our connection kind of went from there, and they talked to me when they received the information from the detectives and from Othram that they were going to be tested to see if Cobb County Jane Doe was one of their relatives. And so it's been a hard, long journey. I mean, I can't imagine what it's been like for them. But for me, it's just, I kept hoping every day that today would be the day. And so when I saw it this weekend, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you know it was coming out this weekend?
I did not know. No.
Every time I think about it, though, I just think, how much work you put into that. I mean, I just know just from our own conversations, but, just listening to the podcast, you can tell how much work was put into that. I know everybody probably involved did too, but you're ours to talk about. So,
so tell everybody where they can find the name of the podcast, like kind of a little bit about it too. That way they know where to go.
Okay.
And what to look for.
So, I mean, as the story goes, I moved to Georgia in 2018. I had been researching missing and unidentified people for many, many years. And, podcasts were like the cool thing. And I thought, well, maybe I should find a Doe case and really dive deep into it and create a podcast about the case. And I initially thought, I'm going to name this podcast True Crime PI, and it's going to be about missing and unidentified people. And I'm just going to do one episode on Cobb County Jane Doe 1984. And quickly I realized that this case was going to require a lot more, many, many more episodes. Because I started reaching out to people from the get-go. And one of the people that I reached out to was a cold case detective that I had read an article about. His name was Detective John Dawes.
That's where I thought you were going with it. Love him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the best. So anyway, so I reached out to him and I said, hey, and I'm like scared to death, right? Like, cause I'm like, he's going to think I'm crazy. He's not going to want to talk to me. Like the whole little voice in your head that defeats you, was going off and screaming very loudly. But I reached out to him and I said, hi, I know that you were a homicide detective and worked on this case. I saw the article from 2011. I also know that you were on the cold case. You were a cold case detective and may have worked on this case. Would you be interested in talking to me about it? And he literally got back to me so fast and he was like, I would love to talk to you about it. And so from that minute on, we just hit it off. And he was very forthcoming with information. He explained everything to me that he knew. He told me everything that he did to investigate this case. He told me the challenges that he faced. He identified the most potential suspect for me in this series. And it was just amazing. I learned a ton and I wanted everyone else to learn what I was learning. And so I shared everything that I could from my own personal research into, she when did DNA, when was it developed? When did it start being used? To, Detective Dawes actually having sent photographs of the crime scene to Samuel Little. So everything in between that, I shared it within the podcast. I just thought I was learning. I wanted everybody to learn with me. And it was a great experience. But when it came right down to it, my main goal was to identify her.
Right.
It would be great if we could, prove that Samuel Little did it, because then there would be justice, even though at the time he was alive, but he is no longer alive. But, there would be justice in knowing that her killer was caught at some point and was in jail and then is no longer living. There would be justice in that. However, I was more concerned with identifying her. And that's really where I spent the most time. That's the most impact I think I had on this case, was sharing her story, but also getting connected with the ME's office and pushing them to take a look at Othram and see if they would be able to work with them. And if they don't have the funding, let's talk about how we can get it. And we could crowdfund for that. And then whenever, I learned about Amy Hutzel, she worked for the GBI. She is connected to the SACI task force. She has funding for sexual homicides. And so it ended up that I was able to connect her with the ME's office. And that's where the funding for the testing came from. And so just connecting the dots, I think, is where, it's what I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
Because I really think it just kept the case moving forward.
Yeah. No, this has been a case that I've heard you talk about so many times.
Yeah.
And that was when you sent that yesterday, I was like, holy crap.
I actually got some tears in my eyes, actually.
Actually,
so
because you've talked about it so much. And like to see that resolution there is, and to know that you had a part in that, like that's amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. And it's like, it takes a village, as we all know, a community,
Right.
willing law enforcement, supportive agencies, of course, laboratories like Othram, investigative genetic genealogists, whomever. It takes a bunch of different people. It's not absolutely not done in a vacuum. And,
No.
and the other thing, is that her family was so willing to speak with me. So behind the scenes, we've been speaking, over all of these months since they did the initial DNA testing. And then that it was a match, but the ME's office wanted more. And so there had to be additional people tested, and that took a little bit longer. And so the waiting extended. And so that was hard. We were all like, come on, can't you just say it? We just want her to have her name back publicly. But he did his job. Othram did a great job. Amy, without Amy, this wouldn't have been possible. Her taking a minute to listen to my story and saying, hey, wait, I think you might have a point here. Like, I think this could be, she could be a potential victim. you have to be really careful about the use of the DNA, using it all up. Even David said that in my podcast. He said we cannot use up all the evidence, and people have to be careful about doing that. And I agree with him on that. That's one thing you can't be willy-nilly about it. And, years ago, they would send it all over the place, and people really weren't experts. And it does worry me that we may have private labs that are better at doing this stuff than these state labs. So, yeah.
What is a mitochondrial profile?
So that's going to match with a mom. So that's like a match to a female. So that's what they wanted to do with Jane Doe. So with Cobb County Jane Doe. So they went and they got her half sister to agree. So she had a half sister and who was living. And so they got her to agree. And that's whenever the ME felt more comfortable, because he was making a child to mother match. And so he felt more comfortable then with that.
And so for lay people out there that don't know anything about this stuff or know very little, why is it better to have that than another type of match?
So in this case, they were matching to a cousin, and he just wanted to have a match if he could. So now what you're matching to is you're matching to an aunt, or you're matching to the daughter of a brother. So to just be, to seal the deal, matching, what you want to do is be able to match directly to a parent if you can.
Right.
And so they were struggling to do that. There was no female sibling living of Veronica's mom. And so they decided to then go with the half sister. Does that make sense? So it was her brother's kids that were matching to, it was Veronica's uncle's children. So Veronica's cousins, but they were men. What he was looking for was a mitochondrial match to the mom.
Why is it better to have a mom than a dad?
It's not necessarily that it's better. He was asking for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I still am learning a lot about it, but I know a lot of people out there wouldn't understand that at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're gonna end up with like, a closer match, because you have, let's just say that, I don't know who my mother is. Being able to, let's say, identify who my mother is, 50% of my DNA comes from her. Whenever you're looking at a cousin, it's not anywhere near 50%. And so if you're looking at a half sister, that's an even higher percentage. So they're looking to make these matches as close to that 50% as possible.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's the fun part about learning all that is also the confusing part for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, it is very confusing, and it is hard to explain too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I think what happened was when he heard there was a half sister, he said, "Wait a minute, I want you to go get that DNA."
Yeah.
Once you get that DNA,
that's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that he knows it exists, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
The family, was fine with it.
I was just going to bring up that I had met with Darren first sight. I was, excited about. I almost wish I had asked him, did he want to join us tonight? Because I think he would have been a fun addition. I cannot wait for you to meet him, Dana. Because
I would love to.
He has all of this Sam Little knowledge, and he's like just a fountain of knowledge in general.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about working with him in general.
Yeah.
But specifically for this, I sent him the identification last night because I'm like, he'll really be into this. And he's got that talk coming up. I cannot wait, because I think that I told him, I was like, I'll just forewarn you, Dana's probably going to pick your brain, man, because he was involved with that very early on, and he actually got to go be in interviews. And
I know
Sam Little was
That's
like
amazing.
writing him letters and stuff.
Yeah,
And so
that is
he has
fascinating.
like all this insight to things.
Yeah.
And to me, it's very interesting because we already have cases that I've ran by him that he's like, you need to look at this guy for that case. You need to look at
Yeah.
this guy for that case. And that level of like cooperation and teamwork kind of goes back to like what you're talking about, like connecting all those dots, because sometimes it's a matter of going out and finding all the right puzzle pieces, you know, like everybody has a little bit of information about the case, but it takes somebody going out and finding all those people that have that little bit of information and pulling them together.
It does. Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, and I know little, and I'm sure people are very busy and they're working on other things. And these cold cases, as we know, do not take top priority. So I learned that if we don't nudge these cases, a lot of times they're not going to move forward because they're just not at the top of the priority list. And I understand that. I mean, I completely understand that. There's a lot going on and there's a lot of work to do on active cases. But at the same time, like, who is advocating for these people? Like, who is thinking about them?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's someone out there thinking about them, then we have information that really could make your job a lot easier and you could get a solve under your belt. So, but I wanted to bring up, back to what Mary was talking about, two big cases this week. And I wasn't sure, Mary, if you wanted to touch on the second case.
Yeah, before we start talking about Stephen's case, we all have our things that kind of brought us into this world that we're in now. And mine, I had a couple of cases that kind of led me to where I am. Kind of at the time, I would have called it my true crime venture. However, of course, today I wouldn't refer to it that way at all, because really it was always about the victims and advocacy for me. But, I was just kind of delving into the world back then. So that's what everybody kind of referred to it as. Anyway, I digress. But in this case that I'm going to mention is really what started my interest into investigative genetic genealogy and Doe cases and cold cases, obviously. A lot of people don't really know that the cases that really kicked off IGG to solve cold cases that really began the amazing journey and developments in the testing of evidence using DNA and genealogy, all of the whole progression of it all. And the case that I'm going to mention actually is the one that kind of really started it all.
Yeah.
A lot of you out there probably have seen the mention of the case out in Allentown, New Hampshire, where a woman and 3 young female children were found in 2 barrels in the Bear Brook State Park. Some of you may even have actually followed this case. The woman was the mother of 2 of the children, and there was a third girl around 3 years old that was unrelated. The first barrel was found in 1985, had the mother and one of the daughters, and the second wasn't found right away, actually. It was found 15 years later, and it was only 300 feet from the first barrel. Found it in 2000. And I'm not even going to try to get into all the details because there's way too much. It's like a convoluted story that leads into several different cases, and it's just amazing. The whole story is just crazy. The best way to hear all the details is to listen to what is really a great podcast from NHPR called Bear Brook. But when I listened to the podcast back then, it really affected me a lot because, like I said, it was kind of where the IgG studies and theory of doing all of this kind of evolved from. And it was really one of the first cases that came out that really somebody fully identified people in a cold case, but also it was the first real case that Barbara Ray Venter kind of pursued. And she was the one that actually identified the killer, who was Terry Rasmussen. But then from there, it kind of evolved into the Golden State Killer and then the frenzy that came after that.
Mm-hmm.
It was really one of the first cases where lay people like us helped push a case forward, including a librarian who latched onto trying to identify the Does using genealogy. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And her name was Becky Heath. And there was an amateur investigator named Rhonda Taylor who was so instinctively obsessive over, well, a lot of things in her life, but a lot of research detail, and was really obsessed trying to help identify the victims of this case as well. And that also sounds like someone we know,
Yes.
Carrie. So, yeah, it was fascinating to me and really affected me. And I know I'm going on and on about this part, but I just wanted to kind of give a background on why this has meant so much to me. So in 2019, not long after the Bear Brook podcast came out, they actually identified the mother and the two daughters. And the mother was 24-year-old Marlise Honeychurch. The oldest daughter was 7 or 8-year-old Marie Vaughn. And the youngest was 2 to 3-year-old Sarah McWaters. But they couldn't name the third victim, which was a young girl they thought might have been 3 years old at the time. And she became pretty much known as the Bear Brook Jane Doe. Some people called her the Jane Allentown Doe, and some called her the middle child. So over time, they did identify that she was the biological daughter of Terry Rasmussen, but they didn't know who her mother was or any other information. And the news, now that I'm finally getting to it, just yesterday, along with our Veronica, they identified her finally publicly. I don't know how long they've known, but and her name is Ray Rasmussen.
My name's Chris Elphick. I'm a detective sergeant with the New Hampshire State Police. We are at New Hampshire State Police Troop D. I've been assigned this case for many years, and I kept it with me after I was promoted out of a cold case.
And why did you invite me here on a Sunday morning?
Had some information to share with you. So the information is that the middle child is no longer only known as a middle child. We've identified her.
Ria's identity was confirmed on a Friday. I talked with Chris from State Police and Matthew from DNA Doe Project on Sunday. And the next day, Monday, there was a press conference.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here.
One of the prosecutors who spoke was Ben Agati.
But today, I and everybody in DOJ, State Police, DNA Doe Project, NECMEC, everybody are sharing the most beautiful and rare of days, because today we're no longer frustrated, but we can find ourselves, for once, just today, fulfilled. Because today we have that name of Ria.
And the other thing about it is now, through the process of identifying her, they also now know who her mom was, and they found that her mom had gone missing. So they are now looking for her mother,
right,
as well, so that, they can find out more about what actually happened.
While all 4 victims of Bear Brook have now been identified, there are still unanswered questions. Questions we believe someone out there can help answer. As Detective Sergeant Elphick stated, if you have any information, no matter how small it may seem, we urge you to come forward. After more than 4 decades, your piece of the puzzle could be the one that finally brings justice for Pepper Reed and Denise Bowden, as well as provide long overdue answers we are searching for. Even though decades have passed, we are still listening, we are still looking, we will not stop.
So ever since they identified the first 3, on my phone, I've had a picture of 3 rocks that were actually dedicated to the 3 identified victims by Rhonda and Becky. They also had a blank stone for little Ray. And I've had this on my phone ever since. And so today I can take that off my phone and put a new picture on there. It's just, the whole story is amazing and crazy. And like I said, if anybody is interested in it, it's all over social media right now, but go check out the Bear Brook podcast, and you'll be down a rabbit hole in no time.
Absolutely. It's a great pie. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really, it's well done. And I think that, it's so touching to know that you had that photo on your phone for all of this time, and that now you get to, like I have gotten to, is put a name to that doe, and to be able to see, it's just something about seeing the name in print. Like I've always felt that way, like seeing someone's name in print. Even if it was, even whenever, my grandfather died, for an example, and I saw his name in the obituary, it's just it's just becomes so real, when it's in print. And now this becomes real. We have named this unidentified child. And it's such a, it's bittersweet, as I always say. It's heartbreaking and wonderful at the same time.
And you were talking about the print aspect of it. I think part of that is like, there's this level of denial in it whenever it's just you, right? Like your family, like you have been told this and you have this information and like you're still processing it. But suddenly when it's in print and it's there and it's public for all these people to read, there's a new level of reality associated with that because now other people are seeing this. And so you're kind of faced with this like, oh, this isn't something that I'm just dealing with myself. Like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of goes both ways. Like, in the process where it's like a grief thing, like that can be incredibly hard because there is that denial. But then in a case where there's an identification, it's like, thought maybe I was imagining that. And now, this it really did happen. They really have. All this work has turned out to land where we thought it was going to. And everybody knows that now. It wasn't, I didn't just make this up.
In my podcast, when I first, season 1, when I was working on her case, I had an intro, and it talks about unidentified people don't have an ending to their story. I talked about how they just don't have an ending, and I want to help write those endings. And that is what maybe that was part of the, like I was thinking about this whole seeing it in print idea whenever I wrote that intro, because it just is, it's really true. I mean, they're stuck in limbo. An unidentified person is stuck in limbo. We don't know who they are. And we now know, we know very well now that you can't try to solve a case if you don't know who the victim is. And so it's really, really, for so many reasons, it's so important to know their name.
Yeah.
I think the one, like the Jane Doe case that like sticks with me the most is the one from Tuscaloosa County, because I can see her picture in my head when that's the picture that always comes to mind when we talk about Jane Doe's. And it's the one they found in the Black Warrior River.
Oh, yeah.
With her white chin length, dark brown hair.
Yep.
And I see her face all the time. And I don't know who she is, but like that is where my mind goes every time. And I would love to see her identified. But that's one of those things where, I think there's this like, you build these connections with cases sometimes. And
they choose you, Carrie. No,
it's not that any one case is like more important somehow in any way, right?
Right.
It's just that for some reason there are certain cases that just like sit with you. Like Mont's case will always be a case that like sits there.
Right.
Hugh and Hardwick's case, until that case gets where it needs to be, like I will never let that go. But there are just cases that sit with you. Like, I remember reading about that. What, And that one from Tuscaloosa County, like I know there are 3 cases around that same time period. There was Shanda Fowler, there was Paula Ellis, and then there's Jane Doe. And you don't hear as much about Jane Doe. And maybe that's why. Because nobody knows who she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's not fair.
No.
She had a whole life. Because she's like an adult woman. You can tell by the age, like the rendering of her, like she's lived an entire life that's just been erased because nobody knows who she is.
Right.
Somebody knows who she is.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's carrying some of those memories. They just don't have the whole story.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you connect those up? Because you don't just get to wipe out somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll put links to all of the things we've been talking about here into the description. So, it's easier for people to go and check out everything. But it's so important for people to become involved in, if you have the resources or if you just, feel like you can support by sharing or support by funding, you might not be able to feel like you can do any investigating on your own, but there's lots of ways to support, and these people need their names back.
And you can always download your data from Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, and upload it into GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA so that, and opt in so law enforcement can see that information and an IGG expert can work with that to make a match.
Right. Well,
so jumping in, Dana, what do you think?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know. What are your impressions of the case? I mean, you don't have, obviously this is new to you compared to what we know.
I mean, it is, I don't want to say it's a rabbit hole because it feels more like a maze to me. It is just, there are just so many little odd things, if that makes any sense. It's very, very, like when you all are talking about it and I'm listening to you talk, I understand it. But then after I've listened to it, I'm like, I can't really remember what we talked about 10 minutes ago, because I just feel like we just keep, making lefts and rights and finding out a new piece of information, whether it's the call or the discovery of the car and the like campsite, or if you want to call it that. But everything is just like there's no logical, like I feel like I can't logically analyze this case. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. A lot of it from I think from an outside view, a lot of it doesn't look like it connects correctly.
Yes.
And so like maybe one of the things that would be helpful here, like now that we've done all the episodes, to go back, we have that time on and just kind of hit it at a high note.
Yeah.
Which is starting in December of 2000. Money advances, right? And then we have that random car rental charge that we're not even really sure where that came from. He takes off work on December 15th. That is like the start of his vacation from Ingalls Shipyard. December 15th of 2000, he has 2 weeks off from Ingalls. From everything we know, he was a good employee. He was always at work, rarely absent. He didn't take vacation, really. He was due for a promotion. There was nothing, to our knowledge, going on at work. Like, he had no reason to be concerned about, like, oh, he might be losing his job. He might be laid off. He might be unhappy at his job. He stopped by during this 2-week vacation multiple times to talk to coworkers. Like, he hung out over there. So he clearly considered his coworkers friends. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stopped over there.
Yes.
he is regularly talking to people on the phone. He's talking to his brother. He's talking to his daughter. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that in the probate records that we have, Stephen actually has 2 daughters. And that's one thing we didn't mention in the podcast, is the fact that Stephen has a second daughter. We were not able to make contact with that daughter. So, I guess that's a privacy thing. Like, we don't really want to mention her name because we don't know how she feels about that or really where she even is. We've tried multiple numbers. None of those have worked. And I don't want to breach that if she doesn't want to be contacted, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that is one thing that we've had. We have people ask us all the time, like, you should, or make comments about how you should talk to the family members. And that's one of those things where, like, sometimes the family members don't want to be contacted.
Right.
Like,
there's lots of reasons why family don't want to do that.
Right.
And Mitch did make contact with Stephen's ex-wife, Nancy. He talked to her. I don't think she necessarily volunteered contact information for their other daughter. We have tried, I don't even know how many numbers for his brother, kids of his brother, which would be Stephen's nephews. Haven't got a call back from any of them. And it's possible that the numbers we had at the time, obviously, I mean, we're going back to 2000, 2001. Those numbers are potentially not in service anymore. But we went in and looked for current numbers, and those may not even be in service. And so we tried a lot of numbers to get in contact with them and didn't get calls back. And so if they are listening by chance, we did try to get in contact with you. And if you hear this, we would really like to talk to you. So you could give us a call or Mitch a call. We'd super appreciate it. Just because he was in regular contact based on his phone records with these family members. And we would like to know, like, what is your take? Like, how did you think? Like, is there anything that raised red flags to you? Did he say anything? Did he have any plans? Do you think he willingly would have done this? Do you think he would have just up and left his life? Do you think
what was the last thing he said to you, the last time you talked to him?
Did he seem like he was in his normal state of mind when you talked to him? Was there anything he was scared of or concerned about? Anything he had going on that was troubling to you? Like, those are all things that matter. We have witnesses during this 2-week time frame that said he was having trouble with family members. And he has these random money movements. He's got a lot of ATM withdrawals.
So, but can you separate the cash withdrawals from the just anything it looks like he spent money on? Like, can you figure out? Yeah. So that we know, like, how much money did he actually just withdraw cash? And so,
interesting.
So I remember in maybe episode 2, it came up that maybe he gambled. Do we know for sure that he gambled? Like, do we know he was a known gambler?
Okay, yes. Well, his daughter said something about that too, like that he would like to go to the casinos. That's where that came from.
Okay.
The actual ATM withdrawals, transfers, whatever, advances, puts it at $10,403. Then the deposits are at $7,900.
So I'm just, I know we don't know where that money went. But I was just interested in, how much cash he may have been carrying around, or, like if he went and gambled with some of that money, if that's what his goal was on this vacation, was, to, just do the things he likes to do. And part of that was gambling.
Well, here's the interesting thing about that too, is that according to the financial activity, the last ATM withdrawal was on December 26th, and that's a Boomtown ATM at 60. A Boomtown ATM for $62. There was supposedly a video of this.
My guess is that he
We
withdrew
haven't seen
60
that.
cash, and there was a $2 fee.
A $2 fee,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, because let me get rid of my filters, because there may be a fee associated with it. Because surely you don't withdraw $62.
No.
Right?
Well, that's why I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, okay, so we have him on the 27th. He's doing the withdrawal, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
that's Mississippi, right? Yeah.
Yes. And then on the 28th is when Julie reports him missing.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, that ATM withdrawal is the last activity that he had.
Also, if it was recorded the last sighting. And if it wasn't recorded, we don't know for sure it was him.
Yes.
There's an ATM withdrawal fee of $1.
Is it? Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, though, because when I go to the casino with my mom, I've only done it once where I withdrew extra money, but also at where she does bingo, they do the same thing. There's the ATM charges a fee, but your bank might charge a fee too.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So the ATM might charge $2, but your bank might charge $1.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But Mary, what you're saying is somebody else could have been using his card.
Right. If they don't have a recording of it, we don't know for sure it was him. Right. Yeah.
So we have there's activity going on, and I think it's December 11th that he buys that blue Impala. So we have mostly that his activity comes from the earlier part of the month, and it's not a whole lot that we have from the early, the first half of December is mostly from his financial records, where he's taking money out. And then we know from witness statements that he took that 2 weeks off. Then starting on the 21st, there's a deposit to this AmSouth account that I feel like was a new account, because not long after that, right, he gets his debit card. There are no check numbers associated with the checks that come through. And then it says welcome to the AmSouth family, essentially. I don't know. We'd have to go pull up that letter. But it's here's your new card for your new account. And that is the first activity on that bank statement is this deposit. So I think this is a new account.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And up until this point, when you go back through the financial records, unless we're just missing prior to this December timeframe, there's no all this financial activity occurs in his Engle Employee Credit Union account. And so there's, activity going on this first half of December, but it picks up as far as the records go by December 21st. So starting on the 21st, he's got a crap ton of ATM withdrawals, and they're at gas stations everywhere. He's got them in Florida, which, we think is going to be the trip to see Julie and his grandson. Back in Alabama, and then he's making, and it's insane when you start looking at it. It's $41 here, $18 there, $74 there. All these little gas station purchases or ATM withdrawals. And I don't know that they always delineate if there was a cash withdrawal, if that makes sense. And then on December 24th, the same day he's going to visit his daughter, he gets this letter saying, hey, thanks for taking out this loan with City Financial for $5,000. It's going to be paid off in 2 years. Here's your expected payment each month, yada, yada. So he's got all this money stuff starting from December 21st. He's moving money around, making all of this stuff, spending money, withdrawing money, moving it, and all this weird stuff. And then we've also got this weird ass calendar. But he goes to see his daughter. And then somewhere between the 24th and the 26th, presumably, because it's very convoluted, the Bowmans find that he's left this package on their porch or in the middle of their floor. It's not very clear. That has weed that they deny initially, but then denying.
Right. I think the classic line in that for me was somewhere in the midst of one of these interviews. There's the line where it really wasn't. I didn't think it was that much weed. It really wasn't a big deal. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, you must have been stoned when you said that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even that's just somebody's personal, I think is what it was. Like,
It's just of it.
The one
it's like personal stash. It wasn't that much. Yeah.
It wasn't that much. Yeah.
We're in big shit. He's in big shit. Everybody's in big shit or something like that. Like, it's all big shit. And I'm like, okay, well, you obviously were aware enough to know that, like, this is big shit.
Yeah.
This is what you just lied to a federal employee.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how you lied. Like, I'm not sure whether it was that you denying it.
Yeah. I just think, this case is a case where, I mean, so if we could just follow the financial transactions, that would be one thing, but we really can't because there's all these gaps and we don't really know. And it seems odd. And then, the weed opens up a whole new can of worms in this story, and then the buying the car, giving it away. And then the camp. I'm not even quite sure where that falls, but I'm just like that to me, like with the TV and the whole setup. And so, you talked a little bit about a mental break happening or, that he was prescribed meds from a doctor. But what do we really know about his mental state?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think.
Go ahead,
do we actually have anything
nope.
from the doctor?
Nope.
Yeah. So really everything that we know about that is hearsay.
Okay.
No, the psychiatrist actually is deceased now. I did find that. So that's out of the question to be able to question him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I get a lot of this. I mean, you can talk to a lot of people and they can say a lot of things and they can kind of fall in line with each other in, I'm not going to say a thread of consciousness, but you can kind of gather, okay, so if you were thinking if you were having this line of thinking, these things would make sense. But if you don't have if it's just people saying things, that's not proof. That's just somebody's theory. That's just somebody's hearsay. That's, do we really know that's what, you kind of have to go over what you know is true, not what you hear and what you think might be true.
Right. And so that reduces this case down to not
a lot.
I mean, if we were to get rid of all of that, then the case gets very slim. Yeah. And probably the financials would take a, higher kind of place in the case. Yeah.
And I think, the one thing that you can kind of do with the financials if you're looking at the actual statement, it's, kind of, you can't really tell where all of the things are taking place at, there's an ATM somewhere and some of them say where it is and some of them don't. But, like some of the gas station withdrawals, some of the ATM withdrawals, they say locations, and there are at least a couple of redundant ones. And one of those is the Biloxi, the town or city is Biloxi a city or a town? I don't know if Biloxi's big. Anyway, it is Biloxi, Mississippi. And that's where the casino is. So, and then there's another one that's in Mississippi. I don't know, might be close to, I don't know where at, let's see. Is Tapa? Escataba. Thank you. I don't know where that is in comparison to Biloxi. I mean, it might be right around the same place, but
I'm gonna have to Google that.
What was that?
Yeah, I was thinking when we were.
Yeah. And then there's also Pascagoula. There's a one in Pascagoula. I said it right. Yes, I did.
Yes.
So proud of me. So, I mean, and this is going backwards, this is back way further than this, but it does show kind of a trend that he was over in Mississippi quite a bit. What was he doing over in Mississippi?
Yeah, like one of those, like a map with just kind of like the real thin line.
Escataba and Biloxi are like 29 miles apart, according to Apple.
Okay. Where are they from Pascagoula? I am getting this really good. I'm getting good at saying Pascagoula. I like this.
I'm so proud of you. I said, it does say 29 miles. Okay. Wow. A mile a minute. Okay. Pascagoula.
And are there casinos in all of these places, or are there just ATMs that he's going to along the way?
Yeah. ATM. It's ATMs.
Yeah.
That he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's like 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, is the ATM in the casino, or is it on the gas station? Or
wait, which one?
Any of the ones I'm talking about in Mississippi. I mean,
so Biloxi is where the majority of the casinos are. And I think most of the casinos are going to be identified, like that Boomtown casino said BT1.
Yeah.
The other ones I think are going to be, they have addresses. If you look at the
some of them do. Yeah, like Pascagoula does.
They actually have the addresses. Yeah, and it's going to be a gas station.
Okay,
so
that's how we knew.
So he's
one came
getting gas, but also doing with cash withdrawals,
or just maybe not even getting gas. Sometimes he's just stopping and making ATM withdrawals.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's to me like it would be a cool thing to take those financials and map them with like, okay, so you have it all like a zigzag line following everywhere he went. That's cool.
Is that on that Google map that you have? The timeline?
Yeah, if you go to the timeline and you click on the map, there's a layer that says stops and sightings, and it starts I don't have it like linked up with all those, but I have it starting on the 23rd, November 23rd of 2000, going all the way through the 27th through that ATM.
Yeah.
And they're in order. So I guess technically we could.
It'd be kind of nice, like put a separate, I don't know, section, whatever you call that, on the map of just that.
I just, I think a visual of, exactly what he was doing. I mean, my thing is that every casino has an ATM.
Mm-hmm.
So, or, I'm sure more than one. So, but my thing is like, if he was taking out money to go to the casino, he could do that within the casino. Like, why is he going to gas stations and taking out sums of money, whatever those sums are? And
so my guess is that maybe the fee was less.
Well, it would be.
That could be true, but I mean, do we think he's worried about that? I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, probably not. Actually. Well, my thinking was like, maybe was it almost a way to like limit himself? Like, I'm going to the casino with this much money and that's all I'm going to spend. But then you get there and there are free drinks and there's all these things. And suddenly it's like, oh, I'm out of money. I'm going to go withdraw some more. And so it was like the boundary there of like, I'm going to limit myself is no longer there anymore.
And I mean, that's a really good theory, I think, on that. I didn't think of that at all. And I think that, you know, to me, that speaks to a state of mind that is more logical than, you know, what maybe it doesn't seem like he's having a mental break if he's limiting himself or he's trying to do something to keep himself from spending too much money when he goes.
And that may
to the
not,
casino.
I mean, that's just assuming that he's in that frame of mind, right?
Right.
Like, but I would also like to know, but like I said, we have this letter from Boomtown. I think it's Boomtown. Saying, hey, your check bounced. The letter came from a collection agency called Transworld Systems. It was on January 16th, 2001 for $470. And it said, our client has requested that we contact you regarding your check, which has been returned by your bank unpaid. We realize this could be an oversight on your part and not willful disregard of an apparent obligation. However, we and our client consider a return check to be a serious situation. And, you know, whatever. But it doesn't actually tell you when the check was written or anything like that. Just that there's an amount due of $470. That's not exactly like pocket change. Not for, well, it wouldn't be for me. I mean, maybe for some people. But if I got something, I'd be like, well, shit, how am I going to pay that? You know? So that seems like a lot.
But I mean, does that though also indicate that I mean, to me, that doesn't come for all of that extra time, but your bank would notify you that a check bounced probably within, 7 days, let's just say. Probably less, but I'm just saying. So does it indicate that, it's possible that he figured that there would be cross funds happening and maybe that would get rectified, or like a deposit happening, or that, whatever he thought was going to happen, I'll take care of that later. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Possible. So I'm looking at the Ingalls Credit Union account. And so there is, and it doesn't say, this looks like it's probably the same amount. My guess is this is going to be that Boomtown check, and that they charged a $200 plus fee for the fact that this was returned. There's an starting January 3rd. It says uncollected fee of $15 is due in the amount of $200. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Uncollected fee of $15 in the amount of $200. That doesn't really make sense. So that's on January 3rd. They try to run it once, twice. Oh, God, thrice. I don't know what the words are after that. All right. That math isn't mathing for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 times that they try to run this uncollected fee of $15 due in the amount of $200. One of them has a different this is my guess, since it was for $470. He wrote 2 checks to Boomtown.
So he had $7.10 in that account. What about the other account?
On December, that the opening what we think is the opening deposit was $2,100 ish. on December 21st. Then there was a check that came out on December 27th for $900. A check that came out December 29th for $250. And then another one for $92.45. One on January 2nd for $300 and one on January 3rd for $300. One of the things that stood out to me, and I didn't think about this, like we did bring this up in the podcast, but I didn't think about this aspect of it until later, was that when Stephen reported that burglary on the 27th, the deputy said in that report, Stephen's checkbook was found in his driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously Stephen's there. He knows his checkbook's in the driveway, whatever. And we had talked about, okay, that checkbook was found in the driveway. Then there's a checkbook found in his vehicle in January. What were the check numbers? Are they the same checks? Yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Except for when the checks, the vehicle is found on January 6th. The deputy that responds and files this as the trespass by vehicle, he says there's a checkbook found in the front seat, right? And that it has the name Stephen Pearson, and he called the number. I didn't think about that when we recorded it because I was like, I wonder if those checks were for the AmSouth account or the Ingalls.
Right.
It had to be the Ingalls because if you look at the AmSouth accounts, we talked about this, that the AmSouth accounts don't have check numbers. So they had to be counter checks. Counter checks don't have your personal information. They just have blanks for you to write it on there. So if the officer was able to identify that those checks belonged to Stephen, then it had to be from that Ingalls account.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And maybe that's not necessarily relevant, but I think it kind of is, considering you've got the Bowmans over there talking about, well, he always kept his checkbook in his wallet. You got Tina putting the last time she saw him getting in the vehicle with Bowman. You got this random withdrawal on the 27th from the Ingalls Credit Union from the ATM. Like, all of that seems to indicate to me like that's somebody that knew to get the AmSouth account. I mean, the Ingalls account, not the AmSouth account.
And I wonder if they wouldn't have known about the AmSouth if it was new and didn't have a regular checkbook.
But then what's bizarre is then you have, okay, on 12/27, the same dates, right? What is that $900 check for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counter check.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's deposited into Ingalls.
It doesn't look like.
Was it for cash?
Yeah. I think that was the one I was looking at the most. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's got $900 in cash, then why does he need to stop for $62 at the ATM in Boomtown?
Mm.
And then there's another one that comes out on 12/29 for $250. Like, where that falls into, like, you need those images.
Yeah. Yes.
And to be honest, it would be easier to forge a check from AmSouth because it doesn't have the personal information.
Because
on
it's
it.
Yeah.
I mean, 900 seems weird. If you weren't going to forge that, then I probably would have just wrote an even $1,000 or something. But
yeah, I mean, I have to say that when I first read about this case or learned about this case, my initial reaction was that he was being, I don't want to say he was abducted or he may have been abducted. My initial reaction was he was abducted. Someone was forcing him to do things and, they did whatever they did. I didn't know what they were going to get out of it, but my initial reaction was that just whenever I read about the case. But then whenever I listened, there's just so much going on that, you kind of lose that track. You're like, well, squirrel here, squirrel there, like, I don't know what to think. And, if we would go with that, let's just say we're going with that. Someone forced him, someone, it took him away and said, we're going to take your money, or whatever reason they were doing this. If they did that, then the whole car being found and the whole setup, I mean, like that whole, camping area that, it looks like he's living out of his car, right? Yeah. Or was for some period of time, would then be a setup, right? We would feel like that would be a setup. Somebody was trying to cover their tracks. And do we think we know somebody smart enough to do that in this case?
What do you think about the wrench? You knew I was going to come back to it.
I don't know.
Okay, so
it's fair if you don't remember it, Dana.
I don't remember the wrench. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking, what is the wrench? And then I'm
in Little Bowman and Big Bowman's interviews, they both talk about this wrench. And so one of the things that was brought up was that there was like a bucket of tools out by the car.
Oh, yes, I did hear that.
Well, then Little Bowman says that his dad, that the day that Stephen came by, his dad was working on his tractor. He had borrowed a wrench from Stephen over the next course of a few days or whatever. He had been trying to return that wrench to Stephen, but had not been able to get up with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then over one of those, I guess, ventures to go return the wrench, runs into the police, I guess, in the woods. I'm not really sure. It's a little weird. And learns that Stephen's missing. Fast forward, we're in his dad's interview, and his dad says Stephen has borrowed a wrench from him.
Oh.
And both of those, neither one of those were like solicited comments. They weren't like nobody said anything about the tools or knew that the other one said anything about a wrench. Yeah.
And Tina didn't say anything about a damn wrench.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 I mean, this is, I mean, it's understandable why it has yet to be solved in a lot of ways, just because it is one of those cases where there's so much going on that it's very hard to determine what is actually the important part of the case, the path you need to follow, to find the answer.
Are these all red herrings because, like, say the Bowmans are idiots,
Yeah.
Or Tina was traumatized and, she just wants to get back at them, or Julie
volunteers. Oh, well, my dad's kind of slow, essentially.
Yeah.
He watches all that stuff on TV, but I'm not really sure he understands it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, but then you think about it and a really laid out cover up. I mean, you cast doubt on everybody around you. You know what I mean? Like and so if everybody's doing
your
that,
like MO to be like, my dad and I didn't have time to talk, so let me just cast him as an idiot.
Well, no, but is it?
I mean, that's the way that, like, that's kind of how he came off. Like, well, I mean, my dad's not all that smart. Like, he watches a lot of TV, so that's where all of his information comes from. You can't really, don't listen to him.
But the funny,
and it was almost like one of those things where they didn't have time to get those stories straight, because they're very different on this whole wrench thing and when the last time. Because also, the thing about the wrench is that Little Bowman puts that event about this whole wrench, regardless of whose it is, before the postmaster comes over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Big Bowman says this is after the last time he saw him was when Stephen came to borrow a wrench from him after this postmaster visit. And they specifically asked him, Bertrand Batiste asked
Like they
him,
repeat it back to him.
this was after the postmaster. And he says, after the postmaster, like repeats the words to them after the postmaster. So it's different time frames. And so it's like, wait a second. They picked y'all up so fast that like you didn't have time to get it together? Is that what this is? And so, well, it's, oh yeah, because then he's like, well, little Bowman, he's a little bit scared because, these are federal charges. And nobody said they were federal charges. They just made that up in their head because Batiste's like, who said that? Who said these are federal charges? What federal charges are you talking about? He's like, murder charges. And they're like, who do you murder? They like tell on themselves in all these interviews.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, though, it didn't work. I mean, obviously they didn't, that whatever they did worked because they're not in jail,
no. Right.
So,
well, that's what we were like. Okay, well, whatever the evidence was that they had, whatever they said, like it wasn't enough to secure. But okay, so here's the thing that we always hear is that like, you get one shot at this.
Yeah.
So like, when you go, you want to make damn sure you've got the strongest evidence that you've got, because if you go in thinking that you've got a solid case and you don't, you're not getting a conviction in that.
Right.
And then you're done.
Right.
And I understand why there's this whole idea behind we need a body or we need confessions don't even work, honestly, not at this point, because people recant those all the time. And so when do you believe them? When they gave it or when they recanted it?
Yeah.
And so they're like, we need a body or a confession. I'm like, don't you technically need both, really, if you think about it? But, well, in this case, yeah, probably because they don't have the evidence anymore.
Yeah. I was going to say that's really kind of the kicker. And unfortunately, it really is the kicker in a lot of cases where so much time has passed. We don't even know when the evidence disappeared or was lost.
Yeah.
And, I still sit on the fence on whether or not I think that I'm more on the side of, I think that somebody intentionally did something to him. But there's still this slight chance that he was just like, got myself into some serious debt and I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a good opportunity given what else was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about in that last episode, we talked a lot about Tina when Tina saw Stephen versus all the other things, because I mean, she's a big witness.
Yeah. If you do get a chance to listen to that, Dana is actually a lot of really great information because of what Tina says. Yeah.
Okay. I shall.
On December 27th, Tina says that around I think 7 a.m., she saw that Stephen came and picked little Bowman up from the house.
I was just going to go look while you're talking. Here. But yeah, I think you're right. Oh, not that it's crumbed.
Or it was early morning. We know that from the report, it was 7:30 in the morning when Stephen reported that burglary. So I guess he could have picked little Bowman up at 7, gets home, finds this attempted burglary, and reports it at 7:30. Because then at 8 o'clock, and Tina says he's in that blue Impala when he comes to pick little Bowman up.
Yeah.
Like she remembers him getting there. He's on in the blue Impala. They are arguing in the front yard, or appear to be arguing. She doesn't know that for sure, but it looked like they were arguing, and it looked like they continued to argue when they left. She doesn't know about when they got back because she was already back in bed when they got home, or when little Bowman got home. So presumably they were still in the Blue Impala. Stephen dropped him off, went back, reports the burglary. But then at 8 o'clock, we have Larry Ferguson who says, "Oh, I passed Stephen in the red Blazer."
Yeah. So
what the crap?
Yeah. What so that's 8 o'clock. So right after she says, "I saw him at 7 arguing," and got in the car and left. And then the burglary gets reported at 7:30, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And then by 8 o'clock, he's in the red Blazer.
Mm-hmm.
And when he reports the burglary,
witness statements we know could be a little bit off.
Yeah, but when he reports,
according to their,
no, I was just going to say, is there there's a report? What time is on that?
Yeah, I'm looking at the report. The report says date and time of this report: 12/27/2000, 7:30 military time. That'd be 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, but then he would have seen him in that.
Then it says occurred on or between December 27th, 4 a.m. and 7:30. Okay. Also, something that hit me was, where the crap was he prior to 4 a.m.? If he doesn't know it happened somewhere between 4 and 7:30, why didn't he know? Was he not home between 4 and 7:30?
Or maybe, well, other than the fact that Tina says she saw him before that.
Yeah.
But if she didn't actually have the time correct, then he could have just been asleep and not seen it or heard it. I don't know. But
so he knew he was awake until 4, went to bed, and then went,
I guess. Or maybe he got up in the night and went to the bathroom and then went back to bed.
But here's the thing. The report was filed at 7:30.
Yeah.
So that seems to imply like
it happened before then.
He got home at 7:30. So it would have happened between the time that he left and got home, between 4 and 7:30. Like, I was here until 4. I left, got back at 7:30, and this happened. So here's the time frame. I was here until 4. So maybe he didn't pick little Bowman up at 7. Maybe he picked him up at 4 in the morning. That doesn't really make sense. But if you've got somebody that is manic, like what Stephen might have been, maybe he was riding the roads. I don't know.
Yeah.
But to me, when I went back and looked at this report, I'm like, wait a second. If he were at home, like, this says it was filed at 7:30. Date and time of this report, 7:30.
So he called it in and someone came out, or it was just a called report?
No, somebody came out because they walked around the trailer and looked with him.
Okay. So what we don't have on that report is the call came in. I'm thinking back to our Brittany discussions, and we really broke down those reports into.
Okay. So this says, I'm on a supplement where it says I responded, whatever. 12/27, 7:50 military time. So 7:50 in the morning.
Okay. That makes a little better sense.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Because I was going to say his signature on the original part of it is 15:10, so that'd be like 3:10 in the afternoon. So he had from whenever he then to the afternoon to write the report.
Write the report, yeah. But it looks like somewhere between 7:30 and 7:50, this report was written. Maybe it was called in at 7:30. But it makes me think that Stephen wasn't at home between 4 a.m. and 7:30, which would explain that like time frame. But I mean, when we read it and saw that it, like, okay, Jana, just because you haven't looked at the reports since you're trying to be, it says on the above date and time, I was dispatched to 11185 Kingbird Road, Grand Bay, Alabama. Upon my arrival, victim stated that his bedroom window has been broken. After we checked his mobile home out, victim noted several small Bud Light beers missing. While he was outside, victim found his checkbook, one empty Bud Light can.
I think it's one empty Bud Light can in the driveway. Unknown at this time if any checks were missing.
Oh.
ID was called out to follow up and no further action taken at this time. They fingerprinted the cans, Dana.
Did
the can?
Did they?
They did.
And whose fingerprint was on it?
No, they don't know. They were unable to get any.
Oh, darn.
How
How about the window? Did they fingerprint the window that was broken?
No. Yeah, it doesn't say.
It says complainant showed me several items that had been touched by the suspect, but I was unable to get any prints. He does not specify what those items were. He also doesn't specify what vehicles were present at the time. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, that is.
But would it make sense to like say like these vehicles were present? You found a checkbook in the driveway. Were there any vehicles in the driveway that were not messed with?
Yeah,
I'm curious
okay,
if
so we know.
I was curious if the Impala was in the driveway.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, so or the Blazer, because we know he's been driving the Blazer up to this point,
or
right?
both.
So like, okay, you get there. He's pointed out these things. There are two vehicles, because presumably, right, both vehicles are in the driveway when you arrive because he's called you to report this burglary, and so you would assume that he would be like, get here, there's a checkbook in the driveway. There's also these vehicles in the driveway. Neither appear to be messed with, or neither appear to have been messed with.
Yeah.
And so it almost sounds like there's nothing in the driveway but a damn checkbook.
Yeah.
Well, where are his other vehicles? Like, did he walk home from wherever he was at 4 a.m?
Well, I mean, that doesn't go with the other story. You know what I mean? That we heard about the Impala. So yeah. So you could like, there's no way we can make those kind of assumptions. This is what I mean about this case.
Yeah.
So like, this is where I was kind of going with the whole like, okay, let's just say hypothetically he like goes off on his own, right?
Yeah.
We know the Blazer was at the house. Somebody told us that. Julie or Sheriff told us that. Maybe both. And then we've got the Impala in the woods. When they get there, if the Impala is not there, is it possible that he was gone during this 4 to 7:30 time frame because he was staging this Impala in the woods?
I mean,
it's not far.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like,
how far is it?
What, like less than a mile?
Yeah.
It's like through the woods, like less than a mile.
Oh.
Like literally, like you walk out his backyard and boom, it's like almost right
Yeah.
there.
Well, it is possible.
Okay, I'm looking at the map. There's nothing between 97 and 2000 or 2006, I think. So I'm looking at 97 versus 2006 on the map. There actually looks like there is a way to get from the house to where the car was found, or at least approximately where the car was found, because I don't know exactly where the car was found. But if you went by the roads, it's like over 3 miles. But why there?
Well, no, I think if you look on like the actual like Google map, I did map it out. If you went by the road,
yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, it was
not
like,
yours, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I did like a actual like because remember we talked about it. I was like, it's like a freaking square. It's literally like a square.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it, the only thing
Yeah.
that's missing is the right hand side.
And it's 3.6 miles.
Yeah, but like as the crow flies, it's a mile.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at. That if you go back there from wherever the house is, there is actually, it looks like where his property is, there's kind of like, I don't know, there's like a couple ponds or something behind his house. But if you go along that road and you kind of circle back around it, then there's like an actual like dirt road that goes down all the way down to the property, down to Henderson Farm Road. So it's like, I don't know, 100 feet or, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe more than that, maybe 200 feet of kind of sketchy road on his property.
I'm going back to the...
So it really is possible to go directly back there if he really tried.
Oh, God.
But it just seems like a weird, I mean, if it were him, why would he go there? If he's trying to hide out,
that's like
he wouldn't be that
trails,
close.
Though.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If it depends on what it looked like. What 3 years after that.
I mean, the next one is like 2006.
So
yeah,
so it's hard to tell.
Well, I think if that was one of the things though, like I asked Bert, and I was like, "Is that somewhere that?" And he
if you knew how,
the locals who knew the back roads would have known how to get there. Yeah. And it looks like if you left, you could have taken some little ass back roads to get there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely at least one.
They probably weren't that great condition, but you could have done it.
Yeah. But again, why would he make the decision to be that close to home if he was hiding? So I guess to me that it just lends more to it being set up than something somebody would actually do.
Yeah.
I don't think it was an actual camp. I think to me, I just don't see it. That's just too weird.
Like you don't think he set it up?
No. Yeah. I don't think that he would.
Like you don't think he did it. You think somebody else did it.
Yes. Because either way, whether he actually did it or he set it up, why would he do it that close to home? That seems ridiculous to me.
The two most, this is why I think it's like enter the characters that have really nothing to do with this. And they take over everything. So if we just say, what if we keep everybody else out of it and we look at what he, could he have done this on his own? And if you look at it like that, you can build kind of like a timeline based on, okay, if he did it this way, this is how we think he did it. If he was abducted, this is how we think it was done. But the abduction part has a lot of big holes in it, like in my opinion. Like it's very hard to build that scenario.
So if you were to go out like, I keep saying it's his backyard. I don't know. It could be his front yard for all I know. But from Stephen's house to where his car was located, it was roughly 0.8 miles. I'm just going to just say less than a mile.
Okay.
Because who knows if I'm clicking exactly right on the ruler. A mile or less from his property to where the car was found. And it's dirt roads. It's like across fields and things. It's like that's a straight line to get there. So, like that's where I was kind of going with this whole like
what cars were in the driveway,
what vehicles are there? Because if the Impala is not there, is it possible that he was setting up the Impala staging it over here for when he was going to leave later? But then, okay, well, he reports that. But was he? Because then we have Tina saying he picked little Bowman up. But then what gets me is like that Big Bowman says, well, I went back in the woods looking for him. Why the shit did he go in the woods looking for him?
Yeah, there's a lot of really odd things that they do.
He said, I didn't know he was in the woods. Isn't that what he said, Mary? I didn't know he was in the woods.
Oh, God, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but
I'm like, you didn't know who was in the woods? Like the deputy or Stephen?
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, I mean,
he says, I'm thinking about, I don't know, he was back in the woods.
Real motive, and we don't know how, if he was leaving on his own, how he would be surviving.
I think like after all I did a lot of like working with the spreadsheet, and I let Excel and all that stuff do my mathing for me because I don't math well. And then Julie even confirmed it separately. That we think he would have had roughly $15,000 on him at the time, or should have.
Okay.
Based on his financial transactions. You've got the Bowmans making comments about like he was going to go do something with a check that day. You guys go tell the postmaster the truth about this, right? While I go deal with this check. And then I'm going to come back and check on it and make sure you do what you're supposed to do. And then they both knew that he kept his checkbook in his wallet. Like they seemed to know a whole lot about his finances in general. Which is weird. My neighbors sure as crap don't know about my finances.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know why your neighbors would know any of that.
That seems weird. I get it that like little Bowman was supposedly like another kid to him. Like he spent a lot of time over there. Maybe at one point lived with him. So maybe he would have a little bit more knowledge of Stephen's everyday habits and things like that. But like, what would he do? Go back and report it to his dad?
Yeah, I don't know.
So that part they seem to have a lot of information about things that they shouldn't necessarily have information about. You wouldn't expect anyway for them to have information about. But then there's this like unexplained gap because I don't get this whole there was a burglary at his trailer from 4 to 7:30.
Yeah.
That seems like a very good time period for him to have been making it look like, he was leaving. Because you have all these comments, right, from people saying he told them he was leaving.
Yeah. But I mean, why report the burglary then? Like, you're leaving. Why bother to report it?
That's true. And I guess, well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot better ways to make things look normal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use normal.
I was going with you on that. Yeah.
I'm going to use normal very loosely.
No, I don't know that you would go that far, Like, I mean, I just think that, okay, so who is really going to know about this part? I mean, you're getting law enforcement knows, the neighbors across the street know. I mean, maybe he called his daughter and told her. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like it's not an action, I think, that makes it look like your life is normal. You know what I mean?
No. And the one thing that, like, I think we probably haven't talked about is the fact that, like, okay, so we had the weed that was delivered, right? And then it was like 15-ish pounds, somewhere around there. And the one thing that Birch said was that, like, the Bowmans were terrified of going to prison. And so, like, when they told them something about prison, my Big Bowman was like, fetaled up, essentially, crying, like, did not want to go to prison. And so, if that's the case, then maybe it's one of those things where you think like, okay, there's a motive. Like, I don't want to go to prison, so let me get rid of the witness who could put me in prison. But also my thinking is like, oh, hello, that's life.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a, I don't know. I mean, the circumstances in this case are some of the strangest that I've ever heard, truly. Like,
Yeah.
I always say when you look at a cold case that there's always something going on, right? Like you start looking at someone who has gone missing, or mostly in a missing case, I see this. And just like there's this little tidbit happening, this weird situation happened over here, this little situation happened over here. But it's kind of like, you can say, okay, well, it could be that or it could be this. But this one is just, there's so many weird things. I mean, there's just so many little weird things. And I feel like ultimately, if we were to figure it out, we were to solve this case, it would be something that was lost in the shuffle just because there's just so many weird things going on. Like it would, once we cleared it all out, it would just be obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but
because
yeah.
Oh, well, okay, this is one of the things that I think could make like a huge difference in it. That Boomtown Casino ATM transaction. When did it occur? Did it occur before the last call to Singing River or after the last call to Singing River? That makes a difference. Was he ATMing before he called the hospital or after? That gives you an activity thing, because if it was actually after, and that's like the last transaction that he had on December 27th, then you would almost assume that maybe he never came back from Mississippi. And then if that's the case, then somebody did set his car up, you would think. Because there's nothing after that.
Yeah. So here's my question. I know that they don't have the evidence anymore, the physical evidence anymore.
Not that they found anyway.
Yeah. But did they ever, when they did have it, do we know if they ever did anything at all with it? Or did they even catalog it? I don't even remember if I remember seeing that.
I think I saw, and it would be in whatever we got scanned in, I think I did see where they sent stuff to DFS, because I asked him, can we ask DFS for their reports? Because those weren't in the file that I looked at. Didn't get an answer.
Yeah. Because that would be the thing. I mean, if we don't even know what there was, let alone where it is. But
what is, like, where do we go from here?
Oh, well, Dana, what do you think happened to him?
Well, now I'm confused. I don't know. I want to say the part of me that wants him to still be alive, I want to say he went off into the sunset and just decided to ditch his life, and for whatever reason. But I feel like there's foul play. So I feel like he was, something bad happened to him.
He seemed like a good guy, and it feels like almost like maybe somebody had taken advantage of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe even more so if he was having kind of an abnormal mental state at the time. So
yes.
Yeah.
I can go with that, at least. I kind of think there's more than that. I mean, the foul play, yes, but more than just taken advantage of, I think. But I would go at least that far for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's where I am for the most part, is that, like, definitely, I don't think he left on his own free will.
No.
I don't think he just was like, I mean, I don't know that I would have blamed him, but I I don't think he just was like, I'm going to leave my great life with my really good job that I like and just, go off to who knows where.
Yeah.
To escape some debts that I seem to be, albeit by taking out additional debts to cover, but otherwise handling kind of well, actually. He wasn't in severe debt. He was just I don't feel like paying this month, so I'm going to go take out a loan to pay it, and then I'm not behind.
And just one last question. No indication that he had any health issues.
Outside the mental health?
Yeah, outside the mental health, physical health issues.
The call to Sacred Heart. Not Sacred Heart, Singing River. But we don't know what the call, if you look up the number, it just goes to Singing River. So we're not entirely sure what the actual call was for.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the medical records to know. Because that was one thought, if he were terminally ill, then that would change things a little bit.
I wonder if did they ever try to subpoena records from, obviously if they existed, but did they ever check to see if there were records of Singing River?
I said I've asked them to subpoena those.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. I don't know. We've talked about so much. It's been 4.5 hours.
I know. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Anyway,
I'm going to have to go to bed soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much for joining us on our conversation and for continuing to follow the cases that we share. If you have any information on any of the cases that we shared today, we encourage you to come forward to the agencies listed. If you wish, you can also contact us directly at info@alcoldcase.com or 251-501-COLD, 2653. And for Stephen's case, use the extension 3 for his hotline.
Since Alabama Cold Case Advocacy's creation, we have dedicated innumerable hours to researching and networking in an effort to provide the largest platform we can to the cases we share. We shoulder all associated expenses with Alabama Cold Case Advocacy out of our own pocket, including the subscription fees for researching and production of the Unforgotten podcast to provide a cost-free avenue for the victims' families of those cases.
We hope you will join in our efforts to raise awareness of Alabama's missing and murdered and support these families who have been forced to carry the immeasurable loss of their loved ones and the fight for answers. If you appreciate our mission and you are inspired to make a donation, your extra support will enable the ACCA to continue our research, share the cold cases, and help those families know that they are also unforgotten.
Unforgotten is an Alabama cold case advocacy podcast, recorded in conjunction with Riverside FM, hosted and distributed by Red Circle to your favorite podcast platforms. Content, research, artwork, and production are by Sellers and Stormy of Alabama Cold Case Advocacy. Credits for music, sound clips, special mentions, and research sources can be found in each episode's description. Your support helps us continue producing Unforgotten and further Alabama Cold Case's mission of advocacy and awareness. There are a few ways you can help us light the path. Make a one-time or monthly donation to Unforgotten through Red Circle, sign up for a one-time or recurring donation through the ACCA website, or subscribe to the Unforgotten Patreon channel for early access to ad-free episodes. You will find the links for all three in our episode descriptions. Another cost-free way to be of great help is to follow us on social media, but most importantly, whatever you do, tell everyone you know about these cases. Sharing their stories is one of the most effective ways to help find resolution for Alabama's cold cases. Be the spark. Thank you for listening, and until next time, remember, justice may be delayed, but the victims and their families remain unforgotten.
That was good. You did good on that one.
Thanks.